There is some aspect of our personalities that we're not happy about, and maybe even see as an obstacle. Maybe you know of being overly anal about a certain part of your life, or maybe your friends are groans with your habit of suddenly canceling plans because you just need some alone time. While your growth and working on our flaws are beneficial, there are ways in which we shouldn't stamp out our peculiarities too much. Instead, we should learn to synchronize with them. Welcome to Lookset, your go-to channel for all things luxury and finance. In this video, we will talk about weird personality traits that link to success. Research is showing what many of us know with our intuition, that there's often a value in our weirdnesses. Even characteristics that are mostly thought of as something negative can have benefits, either because they're agreeing with other more positive characteristics or because there's inherent benefit in the negative trait itself. 1. Introversion. In school and business, introverts are often underrated, especially in the more obvious presence of the extrovert. But the truth is, some of the greatest minds of all time are introverts. Charles Darwin, Albert Einstein, Dr. Seuss, and Bill Gates, to name just a few. Susan Cain argues that the quiet, creative power of introverts is largely undervalued in our society, which today is very much built for extroverts. It wasn't always this way, she says. Throughout much of history, solitary work was much more the norm than group work, but these days, how offices and schools are constructed caters strongly to extroverts. Introversion isn't a matter of being quiet or shy. Rather, the version continuum is more about the type of situations from which you draw energy. Extroverts feel energized by being stimulating social situations, whereas introverts tend to get stimulated by these setups and need some alone time to re-energize. There is nothing wrong with being an introvert. They are not always in the dark that needs to step out into the light and become extroverts. Depending on the situation, they are fine with being alone as long as they balance it with their preferred activity. Go ahead and check our video about the power of silence, and you'll understand that this trait is a superpower. But given the creative and intellectual powers of introverts, anyone might benefit if we reevaluated our attitudes. As Cain says, we should allow introverts the freedom and the environment to do what they do best. Think deeply on their own and come together with others in the office or classroom spontaneously rather than mandatorily. 2. Neuroticism. Neuroticism isn't thought of as the most attractive trait, and neurotic people tend to get a lot of grief for it. But in addition to its intrinsic comedic potential, neuroticism isn't such a bad thing to have. As long as you have self-awareness around it and have taken some steps to get a hold of it, it can provide some very real benefits in life and work. Neuroticism makes you more conscientious for one, since you're less likely to let things slip your mind or miss a deadline. There's a study a couple of years ago that suggested neuroticism is linked to creativity, since turning an idea around and around in your head might have you more likely to have a creative breakthrough. And this suggestion seems to be supported by brain science. Another study recently found that neurotic people may live longer, having a lower risk of death from all causes, including cancer. This may be because they're less likely to let routine care fall by the wayside and more likely to seek medical care when something does go wrong. 3. Thinking outside the box. Researchers who study thought often refer to a couple of different varieties, which are complements of one another. Convergent thinking is being able to channel the information you have at your disposal to arrive at a single correct answer, and is a type that's a winner in many education systems and rewarded in standardized testing. Creativity is observed more than it was, though certain disciplines have always relied on outside-of-the-box thinkers. Art, literature, science, filmmaking, and advertising. It hasn't always been in the mainstream. 4. Questioning yourself. Questioning yourself too much can lead to self-doubt and ineffectiveness. But if you become open to the idea that what you think you know could be wrong, can put you in a favorable position both in your career and your relationships. While it may seem like the course of action is the more powerful thing to do and commands respect, this isn't always the case. A study found that the trait known as intellectual humility, being humble about your intellect and beliefs, and willing to acknowledge that this trait of yours may be imperfect, was linked to several desirable traits. For example, people with more intellectual humility were more likely to evaluate weak scientific information as such, less likely to make judgment calls about the character of the article's author with which they didn't agree, and less likely to be sure that their religious beliefs were correct. And this willingness to evaluate and re-evaluate yourself can take you far in life. If you're sitting around a table at a meeting and the boss is very low in intellectual humility, he or she isn't going to listen to other people's suggestions. As author Mark Leary said in a statement, "Yet we know that good leadership requires broadness of perspective and taking as many perspectives into account as possible. So you don't need to have strong and intense beliefs and force them upon others to get ahead. As it turns out, being open and receptive to new ideas and amending your old ones might be much more effective for your endeavors. It won't hurt to reevaluate yourself and reflect to see where you might be lacking." It suggests that kids' sponge-like minds may be set up to focus less and take in more. 5. Having attention deficit hyperactivity disorder or ADHD. Whether you're a kid or an adult, having ADHD can be frustrating, but many of the most successful people in science, music, sports, and other areas have the disorder, and there are certainly some upsides to it. For kids, their attention deficits may be an adjustment for them to take in more information. A recent study found that in a test where the participant had to attend to certain prompts and ignore others, adults were generally better at answering questions about the prompts they were told to attend to, but kids were better at answering questions about the prompts they were told to ignore. Of course, this may be a little comforting when we talk about grades, but with more research coming out about children's attention and development, the hope is that schools will adapt more quickly and be a little more progressive in their treatment of kids with or without the disorder. And for both kids and adults, one of the benefits of ADHD can be the paradoxical symptom known as hyperfocus. Many people with the disorder find that they can focus so intently on a task that they're interested in that hours fly by, and it's difficult to break attention from the task. It's like being in the zone or momentum, and it seems to be a welcome benefit of the disorder. So if you have ADHD, take the steps you need, but also realize that there are some real benefits to ADHD, which might get you on the move. These 5 personality traits might be an obstacle at some point, but if you have any one of these and you're struggling to see the benefit, it's important to remind yourself that you're behind the wheel, and it's up to you how you're going to roll it. Remember that there are always 2 sides of the coin, and you won't see the other side if you don't flip it. You can always turn things around and make your weaknesses your strengths. This might be weird to others, but if you choose to work on yourself, then what they think won't matter. What are your key takeaways from this video? Do tell us in the comment section. Go ahead and click the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed to our channel, and hit the notification icon so you won't miss out on our videos. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up.